Better tip.
Hey, this is Alec with At the Red Line Podcast. I do coaching and spiritual direction for leaders, pastors especially, but also small business owners. I love to work with salespeople, real estate investors like that. I have with me Thomas Kearns. Thomas, you have a really cool business model that I hadn't actually heard before. I've heard little iterations, kind of, but not exactly. But we'll get into that later. Let's start with where are you from? Where were you raised? What was childhood like for you?
Okay.
Where, family of origin, siblings, that
Fair
kind of
enough.
stuff.
Yeah, I grew up in East Idaho.
Oh,
Have a brother and sister, older brother, younger sister.
ooh, the middle child.
I was the middle. Two working adults, my mom and dad. And my dad, he was an entrepreneur, also had a business. I think that shaped me just to kind of see the trials and tribulations of that and the good and the bad of it. But I've always kind
What
of
was his
leaned.
business?
He had an automotive repair garage.
Okay.
And yeah, had about 8 techs. They had some rental houses too.
Oh, no kidding.
So
Okay, so you
yeah,
got in early,
yeah, I kind of got in early and was,
hands on.
told what the program is for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you ever work on cars?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Nice.
absolutely. Yeah, spent
Nice. Do you still work on cars?
sometimes I tell myself like, oh, I love working on cars. And when I'm out there fixing the kid's car in the middle of winter, I'm like, I don't love this anymore. So that's
You
a
need
that's a
inside,
2027
heated,
goal.
all the tools. Nice.
No more car repair.
Good,
But
good. All right. Well, one of the things I like to talk about is mentors, coaches, directors, spiritual directors, folks that have had an impact on our lives that, I do coaching, right? I'm a life coach.
sure.
Most people haven't actually had a life coach, but you actually have had a little bit of experience with coaching. But who in your life would you look back on and realize that, man, they were really paying attention to me and really cared about me and helped me develop and grow?
Sure. I guess there's a couple different examples of that. I did have a construction company for a long time, uh, 2002 to 2010 or so. But working with some professional investors helped me kind of see some clarity. Working with some real estate agents of really what was possible. I really didn't have the facilities to do anything like that. 3 young kids at home. Um, but that always kind of sat in the back of my mind to where like, oh, I want to do that someday.
Yeah.
And I guess the other person would be my wife. She's
Yeah.
she's opened my eyes to the finance thing, really how money works and how this business works. I've always been hands-on, can build anything, can sell, but really as far as like how does business work is it's definitely something that she's mentored me on. Sure.
Oh, cool. The other thing I like to talk about just for a little while is adversity and difficulty, how it generally shapes us. I was in a meeting just the other day, and they were basically saying almost all of you are probably shaped by adversity and difficulty, and mainly, probably, if you're honest, has put you where you are, which is true about me. Like it
Absolutely.
totally is true about my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have this saying, it's like you're right where you put yourself. And I think that's true, because you'll see a lot of people complaining like, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this. It's like it's generally right where you put yourself, and whether it's, didn't have someone helping you or mentoring you. But for me, I think something that really shaped me was 2008.
Oh,
I
were
thi-
you in the?
I had my
You were
construction
doing real
company then.
estate then, huh?
Yeah, I had my construction company
Okay.
then, and anyone who's been an entrepreneur
Yeah.
can relate to what was going on there.
Yeah.
The
tough
fear.
years. Yeah.
Um,
It was
I've-
insane in Spokane. Were you here?
yes, I was
Okay.
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Terrible.
It was tough for sure, and taught me a lot of resilience.
Yeah.
And a lot of adaptability too.
That's so good.
I was went from doing remodels to I was putting in garage door openers,
Yeah.
hanging blinds,
Getting
just to
anything.
get money.
Yeah.
For sure. So I still have that little bit of fear in the back of my head, or just a reminder of like, I don't ever want to be broke like that again.
Yeah.
It's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
for sure.
Alex Hormozy, we've been talking about Alex Hormozy a couple times. If you wanted to know some stuff about sales, I really recommend Alex Hormozy. But he
Totally.
was talking about resilience and trauma and difficulty and recovery and stuff like that. I took notes and have thought a lot about it, how trauma, trouble, difficulty, how it affects us, how long do we fall, how long are we just
Sure.
wrecked by it, and then how long does it take us to recover, and where are we on the back end? Are we better off from it, or are we like forever ruined? Not ruined, but forever
Changed.
damaged? Is it
Yeah,
changed? Is
absolutely.
it, and there's plenty of things in my life that, I told you before that we planted a church and ran it for a while, and when we closed it, it really changed my life. I mean,
Sure.
it just dramatically changed me, and in some ways for the better, but it took a long time to recover. So I mean, trouble can be, a a breakup or something really like terrible.
Absolutely.
You
It
know?
can be, something pinpointed in your life that like, this is what happened to my mindset when this happened.
Yeah.
And I mean, I still think that's why I'm a cheapskate. You know, no, just that I try not to have that fear men sight and try to
Yeah.
have an attitude of, you know, abundance.
Yes.
But that's something I
Yes.
constantly work on. Sure.
Good for you, man.
Thank
That
you.
was a tough year, man. I tell you,
Yeah,
there's
it
so many
sucked.
people that were just ruined by it. And believe it or not, our financial situation got, well, I won't say it.
Not a lot of fun.
It's terrible. Okay, what are you currently seeking clarity or direction on right now? What's a challenge that you've been like focusing to reshape, the way forward?
Well, I think you asked me that when we first came in, like, what is a bottleneck in your business? And,
Yeah.
of course, it's me. I've been doing some work the last year with the coaching and stuff. And I know that that's something I constantly work on to kind of let go of the reins,
Yeah.
bring in some help. And I
Yeah.
think that's common to a lot of entrepreneurs.
It's hard.
You know,
It's hard to let go,
it is.
and it's hard to find good people.
Mm-hmm.
Like part of it is really us. Like we want to hang on to control, the reins, the power, there's nobody going to do it better than me. And
Absolutely.
then there's the problem with you. Sometimes it is really hard to find good people
Sure.
show up every day.
Yeah. And I think I've used that as an excuse before too.
Oh yeah.
We did a deal this last year. We did it. It's kind of in the weeds, but a self-directed IRA. So it took a little bit of retirement money. So when you do one of these projects with that, you're not allowed to be there working on it,
Right.
which was like, it was a good exercise for me because I'm like, well,
Yeah,
who's
they
going to
did a
make sure
talk
it's
on that the
everything
last
okay?
REI meeting, the one before this last one, and it was very enlightening. I mean, it didn't really affect me, but man, the rules on that are real.
Yeah, it's pretty tight. I mean,
Yeah.
you can get in trouble
Yeah.
or just financially get
Yeah.
penalized. But I hired a guy and his son. They did a great job, and I was like, well, it's going to be okay. So
Good. Good.
so
Good.
that was a good exercise for me too. So
All right.
that's my growth area for sure.
All right. So turning to your business, you've got a really interesting business. I've been hanging out with real estate investors for last 4 years, gone to lots of meetings, talked to lots of people. I'm pretty embedded here in Spokane in the real estate investors network. And your business model and name, which I love,
Thank you.
is unique to me. I've heard people sort of on the fringe, but you've like nailed it right down the center lane. You're just so talk to me about, well, first of all, the name, and then maybe an origin story. I think it'd be interesting to talk about how it happened,
Sure, absolutely, absolutely. Well, our company is called Easy Landlord Exit. We talked about, we wanted to do something a little different than screaming "We buy houses" and the yellow signs on the posts. And I just think that
Not that there's a problem with
no,
that.
those are great. That is a perfect niche. But for us, we want to go a little different niche.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people work their careers and put into their retirement, buy these rental properties, do everything that you say, and you get to be about 70. And it's not a failure, but you're just tired. Like you don't want to go do another turnover. And a lot of these folks, mom and pops, they have a lot of equity built up. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of creative ways to kind of keep in mind their tax situation for them to, move to the next chapter, and
Right.
we focus more on, the ease of it, and the, you know, being a resource for people.
Right.
Not everyone that I talk to, we end up buying their properties, but a lot of times we can, either give them the resources, recommend a realtor if that's better for them. So, um, I just think there's a lot of space for everyone. So we're just trying to fill that niche of.
Okay. Can you sort of, stretch out the explanation? So there's people, they own multiple properties, they're getting older, they're tired of renters, they're tired of the Airbnb space, they're not going to do pad split, and they just want to extricate themselves from this lifestyle that has become normal. Like
Sure,
you get
absolutely,
used to it after a while, right?
absolutely.
Taking care of renters, taking care of rent, taking the money, making sure stuff's getting fixed, buying new appliances. And
Every
I mean, it's
weekend,
a grind. It
for
can be
sure,
really a grind,
absolutely.
but at some point, people get older and they're like, I just don't want to deal with all this hassle. And then so you come along and say, we'll take ownership of your
Hmm.
property and we'll just send you a check. So
Yeah.
you just get like one big check or 14 big checks, or how does that actually work out?
Well, everybody's different. So I think that's one thing that sets us apart is we'll look at an individual um, situation. Like maybe somebody needs to, you know, maybe they have a portfolio and they, want 80 grand a year or before they move up to their next tax threshold. Or, maybe they just want, 3 grand a month or something like that instead of a big chunk of money so that they don't pay the taxes on that.
Right.
Or, maybe, if they have a good rate, maybe we could pay them more, if we could assume that rate on like a sub two or a lease agreement.
Right.
So
Right.
each situation's going to be a little bit different.
Okay.
Some people just want cash. The best situations for us would probably be had the property for a long time, maybe needs a little bit of work, and someone just wants an easy exit where, here's the keys, just want my mailbox money.
So are you looking? Honestly slightly confused because sometimes when you talk, I think about people that have a portfolio of five or six, doors,
Mhm.
and then sometimes when you talk, it seems like you're talking about an individual who has one house that they're living in, and I'm not sure. Do you really focus on one or the other, or you kind of do everything? What's your?
Anywhere in between there. So maybe you just have one rental house, or
You're
we
not looking for someone's primary living house. You're looking for rentals.
we have bought some of those. Like we had a guy who ran a construction business. He was out of Odessa. Nice guy, had a family home there. Just wanted to go to Arizona and didn't want to fix up his house. And he owned it outright. He didn't want a um, big chunk of money. He's like, I just want a couple grand a month. So
Okay.
it worked for us to be able to fix it up a little bit and put a tenant in there.
Uh-huh.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be an 8 unit portfolio. It can
Okay.
just be like, we've had this little duplex for a long time, or,
Yeah.
or I want to go to Arizona.
Would you take a big 20, you know, if they had 20 houses, would you take someone's big portfolio, or are you really looking for smaller portfolios? Is there a sort of sweet spot for you?
I think most of our kind of avatar client is going to be 1 to 10 units. But
Okay.
yeah, if somebody has a 20 unit or, a 30 unit, if it makes sense, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And
Okay.
we don't necessarily, um, one thing that sets us apart a little bit is we can generally pay a little bit more money if we can get a little bit more creative on the terms,
Mm-hmm.
and just being able to get that situation perfect for people.
Okay.
Yeah, just a win-win, really.
Okay. If you had a perfect customer, what would they look like?
Well, I think you're, kind of back to that 55 to 80-year-old retired mom and pop landlord.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, and we've gotten to the feel fortunate enough to be able to choose who we work with.
Yeah.
So we want to work with people that we like.
Nice.
And you
Are
know,
you in Spokane? Are you willing to go outside the state,
oh
or?
sure. Well, we actually live in Davenport, but
Oh, really?
yeah, we operate Eastern Washington, Northern Idaho, a lot of Lincoln County.
Okay.
You know,
I love Davenport.
I do too. Yeah,
It's
we live
freaking
outside of town
awesome.
too. It's awesome.
Okay. As you're looking forward to 2026, what's got you excited? What are you hopeful for?
Well, on the professional level, I want to, keep growing this business, and I'm like you, I like to meet people around my mouth and talk business, and
Yeah.
I like to be in rooms with people who are doing more than me and be around that kind of energy.
Yeah.
Really like that. Yeah, just looking forward to growing actually what we're working. Personally, all of our kids are kind of growing into adults, so it's
Yeah.
fun to have that, watch that transition of them becoming young adults and
Nice.
watch that dynamic of the relationship change.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about that too.
Cool. Cool.
New grandfather too.
No, first time?
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. How long ago?
Piper's gonna be one.
Oh,
My daughter Sydney Nelson's baby. Piper's gonna be one here in April. But,
nice.
yeah,
That's awesome. Do you live on a farm or in town?
we live outside. It is a farm, but we don't farm it.
Okay.
There's one of the uncles grows hay out there, but
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah, come
I
on out.
love Davenport. I just love that place. Uh, Friends of ours, Stu Miller, owned a farm out there, and we would go hunting and hang out with him from time to time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
I like it out there.
best way to get a hold of you if you own a house or a couple of rentals or maybe a portfolio of rentals and you want a easier life, less worry. I was going to ask you a question before we do that. Has it ever worked out where you were talking to someone and you realized they didn't actually want to get out? They just really needed a portfolio manager, like someone to, just like Airbnb has super hosts. Like
Mm-hmm.
you don't even have to lift a finger. Money comes your way and you lose some of the profit margin, but they'll take care of everything. Have you ever, sort of pivoted and suggested maybe you don't need to sell? Or is
Oh,
that,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely. I think I mentioned before, but I'm pretty low pressure. I mean, I think that on something like this, you either meet someone and you can build a relationship
yeah,
and do business, or I could suggest to Kelly Clark. She's a
yeah,
property manager,
yeah,
and a lot of these mom and pops, they have a pretty good equity position. So if they were making a little less a month and could keep the property, that can be a good way for them to go too.
yeah. It just
Um,
depends,
sure,
right?
it depends on their needs too.
Yeah,
I mean,
and their desire for next gen stuff. Do you
mhm,
want to pass this on, or do you just really rather not?
yeah, or you need the money to live.
Yeah,
You know,
it could could go either way. That's
yeah.
good.
I mean, sometimes it might be a change in life or some medical stuff where it's like, hey, we need $80,000,
Right. You
up
meant
front,
big
and then
cash.
take monthly payment.
Yeah.
You
Good.
know,
So it can go either way. It can be a big lump sum with smaller payments or smaller lump sum, no lump sum, just bigger payments. It could
hmm
be any number of the math could go in any direction.
absolutely. And we really focus on the creative stuff, and
Nice.
that's what's great about creative finances.
Yeah.
You can just
Yeah.
do what works best for everybody.
What's the name of that something two?
Oh, sub two.
Sub two. You
Yeah.
do a lot of that.
A little bit. You're basically assuming someone else's. No, I'm not a huge fan of that strategy
Really?
because I mean it works for a lot of people, but as long as the person selling the house on sub two is aware that that house is still on their credit, it's going to affect their debt to income
Yeah.
ratio. For me, I almost would rather do it as like a lease agreement, like a sub two, like a lease agreement. Say like you want to sell a house,
Oh,
but
don't tell me the details.
okay, I
I'm
won't.
sorry. I know subject to a little. I'm not well versed in it, but I
Mhm.
just thought that was what you were talking about. So it doesn't matter. How does someone get a hold of you? What's the best way if they're watching this and they're like, dude, I would love to, an easier life.
Sure.
What's the best way to get a hold of you?
We're on Facebook,
Okay.
Instagram, and then easylandlordexit.com.
Okay.
And then I can put my phone number on here,
I tell you what,
509.
why don't we say we'll put it right here on the thing, your website and a phone number,
Okay.
and we'll put that down there. That's just the easiest for me because my brain
I love it.
Yeah,
I
works
mean,
that way.
one thing I didn't touch on too is, you know, we're also happy to talk with young people, first time investors. That is something that gets me excited, like being
Interesting.
able to mentor people, just
Oh,
because
cool.
I think that there's just a lot of space for everybody in
Yeah.
this. And I tell the kids, it's like there's never been a better time to be more or less successful, like because the bar is pretty low. So if someone really wants to get into this, we're happy to talk with people,
Yeah.
give them the roadmap of like what we do, how to get going.
How are you finding renters? How's the rental market right now these days?
It's
What are
pretty
you
good.
what are you feeling like?
We use Zillow.
Okay.
And then we generally don't have any problem
Okay.
filling stuff. Sometimes the Lincoln County stuff takes a little longer to lease
All
up.
right. Have you worked with Pad Split or some of these other?
We haven't done that yet,
Okay.
for sure. That we talked a little earlier about uh going to the real estate meetup from Clay Clark and
Yeah.
what that looks like with the 6 or 7 people in one house.
Yeah.
It's an intriguing idea
I
to
gotta
me.
say, we have just one property with 4 bedrooms, 2 baths.
Mhm.
We run an Airbnb out of it, and we love it. But if we had another property, I would be looking at Pad Split and what AJ talked about the other night, because I just find that, well, maybe I'm a little greedy. There's
It's a,
there's a little bit of greed going
well,
on.
we
Maybe.
you need the money to keep the lights on, right?
Yeah, right.
For sure.
Yeah. All right. Hey, well, thanks for coming on my podcast.
Absolutely.
Thomas Kearns. I'll get the phone number and the website and make a little video.
Cool.
Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I love it, brother. Yeah,
All
thank
right.
you. Yeah.
You take care.
Thanks.
We'll see you next time. Alec at Coaching the Red Line. If you know a pastor or leader or business owner who could use a coach or a spiritual director, my name's Alec. I'd love an introduction. Thanks.